We live?
Yeah. What's up, you beauties? Welcome to High and Wide Hockey's YouTube channel. Episode 39, 40? Sure. It's our pre-draft episode. I'm your host, Jim Microphone, joined as always by Jack Smith. If you're catching us live on YouTube, make sure you smash the subscribe button. Hit the alert so you never miss a show. And for all the podcast listeners out there, don't forget to subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Spotify so you're first in line when newest episodes drop. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a massive pre-draft episode for you guys, so stick around. All right, we're off to a flying start to our pre-draft episode tonight, Jack. It's 2 days away. We've been waiting for this day for 2 months now, and it's just around the corner. Are you excited?
Oh, you know me, Jim. When it comes to the draft, this draft, particularly with all the picks and how much I know about the prospects, with all the content we've been doing and research we've been doing, and not just us, all sorts of outlets have come out. You had the prospect on. He went from somebody I vaguely heard of to all over the place, as well as just everybody's doing everything this year. So much content to consume, and it's going to be a crazy fun draft. And of course, the Flyers got all sorts of picks to make it work. So it's going to be a blast. It's finally here. I'm starting to feel a little burnt out. It's not going to slow me down, but I'm going to get to that finish line, and it's going to be worth every second.
Yeah, that's for sure. And the Flyers made a massive deal earlier this week. Let's get into this. So the majority of this show tonight is going to be about Trevor Zegras, the Flyers acquisition of their potential star center. And we're going to kind of lead into the NHL draft with that. We're going to try to do, if you guys have watched the last few shows, so Jack and Paul and Josh have been putting together some draft rankings, some mock drafts. And if you've seen if you caught the show with the prospect on, and if you guys watch, I think it was a week or two ago now, we did the SC hockey draft. We'll try to do a mock like that where, I think Jack and I have certain players or picks in mind, or maybe even the same ones. We'll see for the Flyers in the first round. So we'll do a first round mock for the Flyers. And if Jack and I happen to pick two different players, we want some insight from the viewership on who to pick. You guys will be the deciding vote ultimately on where we go with the mock draft. So we'll try to have some fun with that. We'll talk some prospects, obviously. And so, yeah, we have a great show on tap. We're waiting for some people to pile in here. We have Fancy Frunes bright and early into the chat here. We appreciate that. So, yeah, Fancy's got a – all right, so let's get into Zegras, Jack. This happened on Monday, I think. Everything is set up for Zegras to have a bounce-back season. Contract year with the new team. Perfect scenario, says Fancy. Let's kick it off, man. What are your thoughts on Trevor Zegras? We were talking about this guy last summer. We thought they were going to have to give up more for him. Seemingly waited Pat Verbeek out, which – look, that's a really bad reputation to have as a GM, is that you can be waited out, right? And Briere strikes. What are your thoughts on the player? What are your thoughts on what they gave up? And let's kind of give some foresight and try to see if we can predict the future here.
Well, first and foremost, Jim, I broke out the good stuff tonight for the old Zegras trade because
coffee.
I got just coffee too, but this is. I can't even, I don't know what that means. Like, that means it's got to be good, right? Let's get into that right there. Yes, last year we brought up Zegras because centers, as we've been saying for quite some time, with not just our podcast, a lot of podcasts, and Danny Briere himself, centers do not be, at least good ones, young ones with potential, do not become available very often unless there's a reason. So the player himself, let's not kid ourselves. Zegras, what was the 9th overall pick in the 2019 draft?
Mm-hmm.
High caliber, highlight real style of player. He's proved that. I believe his age 20 and 21 seasons, he had 60-point seasons. Michigan goals galore. Do not forget the alley-oop Michigan-esque pass that I think it was Sonny Milano. He tapped it in. Like, just crazy skill on the offensive front. Very young kid. and just oozes potential. However, to the flip side of that, last 2 seasons has been pretty rough. It all started with the negotiations with him and Drysdale, and I believe that was Verbeek. And I say what you will about Drysdale because he had a lot tougher time out there in Anaheim. Zegras, until that contract, did not, and he got lowballed. It got nasty, and I think that things kind of started to take a turn for the worse once they eventually agreed to a contract. I think this is his last year of that deal, making 5 point something, like 5 point something low, I think. And he's been injured ever since. He really only played like maybe 30 games 2 years ago. This year he played, I don't know, 50 or so, and it was slow goings. But he did start to pick it up at the end of the season, and he was looking more and more like a complete player, which his own coach, whose name escapes me, I know he was fired anyway.
Last name was Cronin. I'm forgetting the first name.
Cronin, yeah. So Cronin, who is essentially a Torts caliber type of coach with no street cred like Torts has, and the entire team hated him, and he still had praise for Zegras. He's like, he turned those other factors in his game around. Now, obviously, it's not perfect, and it's a small sample size, but that's kind of what Zegras alluded to when he was like, asked about the trade and was he surprised and all that. I thought I was doing everything that they had asked me, based on where we were at that time. And obviously I had some injury issues, that, the other thing. For me, what it comes down to is I know that draft pick was not a Verbeek draft pick, Drysdale and Zegras. So you see them moving on from those guys. That's part of it. It could be a problem. And it's probably one of the things like maybe we should just cut bait and move on, which explains why. I'm sorry, somebody mentioned the NBA draft. I am keeping an eye out in case the Sixers make some kind of trade or something. But why they would trade him for so little, and you mentioned that earlier, could he be waited out? And I think Verbeek unintentionally painted himself into a corner a little bit with this, because our poll last year was York for Zegras, and it's all based on potential. And there are people, most likely from Anaheim and maybe the non-Flyers fans, who said Anaheim's not doing that deal. And then here in Fireland, most of us were like, we're not doing that deal. And then you see what they gave up. And part of me thinks that Anaheim, one, wanted to get rid of an issue or potential issue, and two, really wanted the cap space. They've been rumored to be in on Marner. Now, do I think he goes there? No. But you know what? You need the money to big game hunt, and they seem to want to be doing that. So that, and Briere has shown the ability. You can look at it with Lawton. You can look at it with pretty much every trade he's made, especially Lawton, though. He will wait you out and get the deal he wants, and then some. And if you look with Lawton, he wanted a first-round pick. He got Lawton and Grabenkin, who's not a bad prospect at all. So Briere is just putting on a masterclass here, because now I'll talk about what they actually gave up. They gave up a pretty good player in Paling for the bottom six variety. At the end of the day, as much as I like the guy, he's still replacement level. And he maybe he lines up with the future, maybe he doesn't. Either way, he's a bottom 6'4", doesn't really matter. You traded your fourth line center, a second-round pick in this year's draft where you already have 4 second-rounders, not to mention 3 first-rounders. They didn't even give him their own pick back, which was the higher pick. They gave him, I believe, Columbus's pick, 46, I believe, and a 4th-round pick in next year's draft, 2026, which my understanding is after the 3rd round, this organization isn't too big on any of those picks. The first 3 rounds are what they really zone in on. Pennies on the dollar. I mean, my God, how does it go from York for Zegras to this? They gave up essentially nothing. This could not work out. Let's say nothing happens, things go south. It does not matter because they paid so little for this attempt. It's better than any trades or anybody they could have drafted in the 2nd or the 4th or whatever. Denny hits an absolute home run, and his own words, he's not even done. What a way to start draft week. Unbelievable. You're on mute.
That's exactly what we all wanted, right? Like, look, they're going to try him out at center, right? So we're going to see. We're going to see. It sounds like the idea is to at least have him start out there. Look, and right now I'm of the mind, get him out there, gave him a full season at center. Let's see what he can do. I guess I also want to say this. there's a faction of the fan base out there that I don't know if it was jokingly or what, peddling that Briere can't close. Have you seen any of this, Jack?
A little bit.
I only saw it after he made this deal, but if we go back, I think every season that Briere's been here, he's made him a big deal, right? Like he moved Provorov, got a haul. Scott Walker is Scott or Sean? Is it Scott or Sean?
It's Sean.
Sean, all right. Sean Walker comes
Matt,
back.
Sean, Scott. I love it.
Flips him for a first. Okay. Like, so he waited out that deal. Ended up waiting out Colorado for the first. Moves Provorov for the haul. I think he ended up getting 2 first-round picks, was it, Jack? I can't remember now. It seems like a long time ago. What was the trade?
I'm sorry, who?
The Provorov deal?
So it ended up being 2 first-round picks.
Okay, yeah.
And it was one. I actually think the second that we traded to Anaheim for Zegras was from that trade. They had to decide what year the second rounder would be. It would have been last year or this year. They made it this year. That just got traded in the Zegras trade. Wow. So yeah. But yeah, well, Scott, see, now you got me doing it. Sean Walker eventually became a first-round pick. So if you want to break it down that way, 2 first-round picks. And your boy, the AHL defenseman, Grans.
Yeah, outstanding trade. Player picks, prospects. You mentioned the Scott Lawton deal, was able to get a first, and a prospect in Grabankin. There was another one I'm missing now. The Cutter Gauthier deal.
Well, one he had to do.
And look, Drysdale's a project. I'm not going to sit here and try to sell that he had a better season than Cutter Gauthier last year, because Cutter Gauthier, I think, really finished pretty strong, unfortunately. But I think did the best he could with the cards that he was handed in that situation. You know what I mean? And I am missing one more deal there. Go ahead. Do you remember it?
So we got Provorov, we got Lawton. Right, I brought up Lawton earlier. I don't know
the Farabee Frost deal. Sorry.
Getting rid of get rid of that. And that was another rumor deal. It looked like they were almost had a Farabee for Zegras deal before, but which fell apart. But either way, both players they kind of lost value. That would have looked nice, but they moved on from guys, got some cap space, which is going to come in handy big time soon. And then they're acquiring, like, Zegras is considered a reclamation project. He's 24 years old with 2 60-point seasons under his belt. He's already proven he can do it at the NHL, and the Ducks have sucked. So you're going to bring him in here? Say what you will about, we'll talk at this, and is he going to be a center that? Newsflash, he did all his damage at center. Lately, he's been playing wing, and it hasn't been going so hot. Like, he's a young kid. Like, you take this risk 10 times out of 10. And you brought up the not closing thing. A lot of that was, he can trade players and acquire assets, but can he acquire players for assets? He just did. And he did it for pennies on the dollar. Look, I'm still waiting for that massive deal where he trades 2 first-round picks and a prospect for a player. Look, he hasn't done that yet. But if that kind of trade came down for Zegras, like a first-round pick and like Andre or something, yes, most of Twitter would have been pretty pissed off, but they still would have been like, look, we acquired Zegras. To get Zegras for this, like, the haters are running out of things to say awfully quickly. It's going to come down to whether they can just put together a team that can make the playoffs and win, because how they're building it right now, it's already something Hextall didn't do. And it doesn't really compare to Fletcher. Hextall was the guy who would draft players and develop. And when it came to acquiring players, like, he got a good haul for Coburn. He traded players and got good hauls. But when it came to acquiring talent, Hextall he never did it. He never traded for Ryan O'Reilly when they were rumored. He signed Dale Weiss. He signed JVR almost because he had to. You know, I mean, he never took that next step and did that. Briere did it in less time and just proved he could do it. And he could. Can you think of a trade the guy lost? If you want to throw Cutter in my face, understand the circumstances there. Player demands a trade. They kept it quiet, got as much as they could. Like, I don't know how you complain about what they've done. They maneuvered Beachcoff coming here. I mean, if they hit the home run with this draft, and ultimately time will tell, 5 years down the road. But as far as where its perceived value is and who we can get, like, I don't know how you could say anything negative. Unless you're just not patient enough for them to put together a team, or you don't like the Tocchet hire or something like that. So I mean, it's got to be awfully tough to be in the Briere don't got it corner today, this week, really. Because my God, did you get what could be your number 1C? If not probably at the worst, he reverts back to that 60-point player, maybe 50-point player. Like even that's not a pretty good center, and you're lacking center.
Pretty damn good,
right? You're lacking center depth, so it's like I don't know how I've seen some people try to swing it the other way. Oh well, Paling's a pretty good player. It makes sense for their lineup. Yeah, I agree with you. They still got way too little value for a player of Zegras caliber, and it's because Briere waited him out.
Yeah, I don't understand the Briere talk. Look, people wanted to rebuild, and I think it's ironic. Some of the biggest people calling Briere, saying that he couldn't close, are some of the biggest advocates of a rebuild. And then it's like, well, usually the first 2 years, especially if you look at what the Flyers had to deal with, cut salary, right? They got rid of guys like Hayes, D'Angelo, Atkinson, Cal Peterson, I think, had money on the cap there too. Like they had to get rid of all these guys. They're moving players around that didn't fit in the locker room anymore. Farabee, Frost, Provorov. It takes time to do that. You can't just snap your fingers and in a half an hour, like a video game, all that gets done, right? So it's taken him 2 years to kind of shape and mold the team and the cap to where it is now. And he was able to look. I liked Paling, and look, even Ryan Paling was outstanding asset management because the Penguins chose not to tender him a contract. Danny Briere picked him up and said, hey, sign here. We'll give you the ice time. You can rebuild your career and we'll send you on your way. And that's exactly what happened. Ryan Paling had a great stint as a Philadelphia Flyer, so good that they were able to use him in a trade for Trevor Zegras. That's Danny Briere. Briere did that. He identified that this is a player that we can use and flip down the line. This is what you want to do in a rebuild, and he's doing it. And not only that, Jack, in the past, how many times have we talked about the Flyers? They're not in a position to bring in big free agents and spend big money. They need to build a roster like the Carolina Hurricanes have, like the Florida Panthers have, right? They need to go out and get reclamation project type guys, right? And I'm not comparing Zegras to Bennett playing style, but Bennett sort of, his career in Calgary sort of ran its course. You knew the skill and the talent was there, but it wasn't being utilized or it wasn't coming out in Calgary. This guy needed a change of scenery. Boom, Florida trades for him for pennies on the dollar, or picks him up for pennies on the dollar. Carter Verhaeghe, another guy in Florida. I'm sure I'm missing a couple more.
Well, Forsling, picking him off the scrap heap.
Off the scrap heap. And this is what it looks like. This is what the Flyers need to be doing. They're not in a position to add, 14, 13, 12, $10 million players yet. Build up the roster, right? Get guys for cheap. Build team chemistry. Build a place that star players want to play at, that they want to sign in Philadelphia, right? Because in my opinion, right now it's a hard sell. But if you're going out and trading for players like Trevor Zegras and you're drafting guys like Matvei Michkov, if you're an offensive-minded guy, all of a sudden you're like, you know what? It could be fun to play in Philly. Maybe that's a place I'll look at. You know what I mean?
If you're a guy who's got really high expectations for his career and just can't get over the hump, I really like what they're starting to do in Philly right now. And maybe it's somewhere I decide to sign if I move on. And Peter, I don't know if I've seen you in the chat before. You're right. It's a great gamble. There is a reason why there's also a reason why Zegras was available at all. And that's because these guys do not become available, especially guys who can play center. I know Briere stopped short of saying center. He was kind of like, he's a sit forward. He's going to play center. And even Tocchet was like, we don't try him at center and don't try him with Michkov. We'd be stupid because you need center. And he did his most damage at center. I see a lot of this with the goalies. Look, free agency hasn't even hit yet. I mean, the draft hasn't even hit yet. So already have Zegras in the fold and still have 6 of our top picks. Like, my God, this is fantastic. I really hope there's more fireworks. I feel almost ungrateful saying that because we haven't seen so much in so long. If anything, we've seen selling and getting such a nice return to get a player of that caliber and be wanting more. It's very I feel ungrateful saying that, but this is what the team needs. And luckily for us, Barrera has already said, yeah, he didn't gloat. He was like, yeah, this is great. We're not done. We're always talking to people, and the reports are all out there. They're in on almost everybody. The Byram from Buffalo has been picking up steam, like things like that. And they're always seem to be looking. They always seem to be looking. And it's different from what we're used to, and it seems like they are going to add the right players. And based on the price, even if he's not the right player, who cares? You might as well try it out. My God.
Yeah. And this is what they got to do. When a guy becomes available that's not working out somewhere else, take him on. Even if you don't necessarily have a spot for him. Like Trevor Zegras, I guess, would be the perfect example. Sure, we want him to work out at center, but there is the possibility that, he doesn't work out. If they do sign him, you have – look, after Michkov, you have probably your most offensively talented player in Zegras, right? And if he's playing on the wing, we'll see what happens there. Look, he's got a year left. And I would say that if they don't have a contract for him, and I know I'm looking down the road a little bit, but if they can't agree on a contract or something by the trade deadline or whatever it is, and he's having an outstanding year, and all of a sudden he wants to get paid, and maybe he wants to go to one of these tax-free states. I don't know. I'm just saying you have a really good trade chip there. Just saying. I know it's a little early for this kind of talk where he hasn't even played a game for the Flyers yet, but I'm just saying, you know what? It could be a possibility. He's on a 1-year deal, has a great season. Maybe word gets out. He maybe doesn't want to play here next year, whatever it is. You have an asset at the very least.
And you're right. And yeah, because look how many teams I read somebody mention an executive saw the deal and was like, we knew it was that low. We'd have offered more than that, and you got fans
Anaheim
are furious.
Fans are pissed. They're pissed. Yeah.
They should be. Some of them, lifers are trying to spin it. Oh, he's not good. It's like, we didn't pay anything for him. What does it matter? The only way you could have done better is if Verbeek sent him over for nothing and retained all the salary. I mean, that's the only way you get an A++. Other than that, this is probably as good as you're going to do for a player like that. And two of his best friends are here. We have nothing to worry about him moving on unless we decide he ain't worth it. Because York and Drysdale, I mean, my God, he's set. You would think with them being here and the direction we're going and things just being different. And I truly believe the grass is greener in his scenario because they were done with him. It's a new regime. They were looking to move on. He's constantly in trade rumors. He's mentioned that. It's the first time ever. He's been successful at every level he's played at, including the NHL to an extent. It's only been these past 2 seasons in which he's barely played. Hard to get into a rhythm when you barely played. Everybody hated the coach. And some of it is on him, but it seems like he was refining other aspects of his game. And they moved him to wing when he's clearly a center. And he's going to play center here, at least to start, because they got wingers galore. Remember look at our squad and then look at the guys we got coming, like Bump and whatnot. Like, he's going to play center and we'll see what we have. And it's such a great deal. I don't understand how any Flyers fan at all could be like, well, I don't know. If I could, Briere, this, that, like, stop. Just stop. Yeah. Even if it doesn't work out, what did you lose? Nothing. The odds of a second rounder making the NHL and sticking is like, 11%, maybe less. Like, come on. And you have
Especially
3 other seconds. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Especially in this draft, you have 3 other seconds. A fourth, it's even, my God, what's that? Like less than 2% chance, and a 4th line center. Yeah, we liked him, but like in 2-3 years when we're really going for it, he's even going to be the same guy. Is he going to be in the same role? He's replacement level.
So here's a question.
Go ahead.
Here's a question for you, and I do want to read that comment from Fancy in a second. Briere had I think it was a pre-draft presser. I think it was maybe last week now, and he said something about top line centers are not available, and all teams are really looking to move our 4th line guys. And I'm not going to take the credit for putting this together because I think it was our buddy Chris Bennett on Twitter where I saw this, but Briere talked about only 4th line centers being available. And in Minnesota, Bill Guerin had Marco Rossi playing on the 4th line. I believe it was in the playoffs, right? Yeah. And so Briere comes out, and people are saying that these pre-draft pressers are not spicy, and they're not. They're boring as all hell. But if you're paying attention, like Chris may have caught here, Briere might have been talking to Bill Guerin out in the media there, like, hey, we're trying to trade for this guy. You know, you want top line assets in return, but you're playing him on the fourth line in the playoffs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Talking about diminishing your asset.
And so I wonder if Rossi was the first guy this whole time, like the main target. And it sounds like Guerin wants a late first round pick or a mid first round pick. And look, if you're Guerin and you have a team checking in on a player that has the 31st pick, the 22nd pick, which pick are you going to be asking for? The 22nd, right?
Definitely. And, just to interject real quick, I don't, it might have been Buffalo. I'm not sure. Apparently somebody offered like the 18th, right around that for Rossi straight up, and it was denied. So it's gonna cost more than that. It's like that versus plus what we gave up for Zegras. Like,
right. And so like imagine, look, I'm sure there are fans out there, whatever the deal would have been like, all right, well, we gave up 2 late firsts or whatever it was for Rossi. But if I had to put side by side, you know, the 22, 31, and maybe whatever else for Rossi against what he gave up for Zegras, right? And I don't know what Rossi's ceiling is. I really don't. If I had to guess, I would probably say a 70-point guy, 70, 75 points, which is very good. Absolute ceiling. Zegras, I think, can also be that. You know, look, 2 60-point seasons back-to-back before he turned 23 or 24, something like that. His point production really dipped when they put him out on the left wing, right? When they ended up drafting Carlson and they ended up drafting Mason McTavish, who finally got healthy and got his stuff together over there. They made a choice. These are our guys. We're going to put Zegras out on the left wing. Zegras didn't want to play left wing. He's a creative guy. Typically, creative guys play better when they play in the middle of the ice. So it seems to me that Briere pivoted and said, look, if that's what you want for Rossi, we're going to pivot and we're going to give up the assets that we feel comfortable giving up for Zegras. And that, to me, is good GMing, right?
That's asset management right there.
Right. And now you still have your first 3 picks in this draft, whether you want to move up, move down, trade them for next year. Like, teams get weird. Like, Jackie, like, you know, we see it every year. Teams get weird when the draft comes in that moment, right? Like, all of a sudden, I forget where I was reading or what I watched. Maybe it was a couple weeks ago, but Flyers have the 22nd overall pick. Oh, I think it was the pre-draft thing where Briere even said this. The Flyers have the number 22 pick. Right now, that pick is just number 22. It's just a number, right? You can't really put value on it right now. The draft comes and the Flyers are on the clock. They have a chance to draft, I don't know, let's just say Cole Reshny, or Braden Coots, just throwing 2 names out there. Don't know how it's going to drop, whatever. All of a sudden, if a team sees, okay, we're a center needy team, we need some depth here, you have a chance to draft Braden Coots or Cole Reshny. It's not just a number 22 pick now. Now there's names and players and value attached to it, right? And so hang on to your picks, especially the good ones, because the value of those picks, I don't think the value of those picks really goes down. Like, you're comfortable picking your guy come draft night. Like, I assume they have a list of 5 guys they want to take at 22, right? And you would assume that one of those guys would be there when they have to walk up to the podium. But to another team, maybe they have a higher value on this guy, and they're like, look, we need to have the 22. We'll give you the 24 and a pick next year or something. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
I don't know. So it's just,
the point is there's options galore.
Yeah, the patience.
The Flyers
off too.
The Flyers did the opposite of what Anaheim did. They have done anything but paint themselves into a corner. They have every possible option at their fingertips. Yes, we have things we have to do. We want to get bigger. We want to get grittier. I get all that, but you still need to be good. You still need skill. They've somewhat addressed that potentially here. I mean, there's a lot of potential to be real, and they didn't give up anything. And now they're in a spot where other teams who it seems like their players are getting less and less value, all of a sudden, like you said, if I'm another team and I see a player I like, and my draft guy's telling me, look, this guy's on our board and he fell to 22, and there they are right there, and they're interested in our guy. Now do we talk? And they're decentralized this year, so they're going to be. I expect more movement because of that. Maybe not in the top 10. But I do expect more movement because of that, because they're not going to be on the camera and running from table to table quick phone call from the hotel room and whatnot. And Flyers have nothing but assets to work with. And Briere don't mess around. And Jones knows everybody under the sun. And it just, you're seeing why these guys got the job so far and the connections they have and what they can do. And it's real so far. I don't know how you can complain about anything so far since Briere took over. Cutter, I guess, but I truly believe that was out of his hands. And that guy's an absolute piece of trash. Other than that, it's been all systems go. Exactly what you do in a rebuild. Yep. Besides completely bottom out, which I don't think their Comcast is really going to let them do.
Yep. Okay, so let's sort of transition here. We're a half an hour into the show. The draft is Friday night. We're 2 nights away. This is our second to the last show, as Jack will be recording, I believe, tomorrow night for the final show before the draft.
Final mock draft, and we just lost a pick. I can't believe it. We lost a pick. It's going to be tough.
And so, we're going to try to do something fun tonight before tomorrow night, as this is our last HW podcast episode. And we want to do, I'll just bring it up. I'll share the screen now. We have the FC Hockey mock draft builder here.
Oh, this thing's great. We'll be
using
this tomorrow night. It just makes life so much easier. Like, I'm getting roasted because nobody can read my typing. And like, this makes life, it just does it all for you. All the hard work is done for you. Have some fun. Check it out.
Yeah, so if you guys want to do this after the draft or even while you listen to us, you can go to NHLentrydraft.com. You'll go up to, where is it? Oh, on the page that I'm at, it says interactive, but it should say tools up here on your little toolbar. So we're here already. We're going to select the Philadelphia Flyers, hit next, and we're going to do just the first round tonight. So hopefully we have a little bit of banter. Oh, it starts right away. All right. So before we show the picks here, it doesn't look like, actually, you know what? All right. So we have the first 5 picks off the board, Jack. And so just in case, because a lot of people have kind of piled in, I think when we explained what we were going to do tonight, we only had 50 people. Now we have about 550 people. So Jack and I are each going to make a selection of which player that we want that's available at the Flyers when the Flyers pick 6, when they pick 22, and when they pick 31. We're going to purposely, I think, pick 2 different players and let the chat kind of vote on who we should take, who the Flyers should take. So you guys will be the deciding vote, and let's have some fun with this, okay? All right, Jack, ready?
Let's do it.
All right, so the way that the draft has gone down, and it's going to be interesting to see if this is how it goes tomorrow night. If you're a Flyers fan, I think maybe we're a little bit disappointed right off the bat here. So Michael Misa goes first overall to New York. This has been happening a lot. Matthew Schaefer going 2nd overall to San Jose. James Hagen's going 3rd overall to Chicago.
Boo!
Caleb Denoyer going to Utah. And Anton Frundell going 5th overall to Nashville. And so far, that's probably the most realistic. I'm saying that now, but come Friday, I'm going to look like a total ass because, it never goes how you expect, right?
Especially this draft.
Brady Martin's name keeps coming up in the top 5. You never know who's going to take Roger McQueen. Maybe the back issues are gone there, whatever it is. Now we're hearing Jake O'Brien could be one of the disruptors. He could move up into the top 5, something like that. Okay. So anyway, we're on the clock at 6. Our top 3, unless we're going to go a little further here, and that's fine if we do. But Porter Martone is available, and we're using FC Hockey's rankings here. I tried to use the consensus because you can use FC Hockey's rankings, or they give you the consensus option, and the consensus option's a little screwy. So we're just going to stick with FC Hockey here. We have Porter Martone is the highest ranked player left. Victor Eklund, who we're not really talking about that much. He's a left winger, which the Flyers kind of need, but a very good player, plays hard and can score a lot. So maybe we should be talking about him a little bit more. And Jake O'Brien there at 8. Jack, of those 3, and if there's somebody else that you want to take here at 6, please feel free to mention and talk about. Where are you going to go with this pick here?
It comes down to 2 players for me, but I'm only going to tell you who I'm going to take. And I see a lot of this, Brady Martin talk and the grit and all that stuff. Well, I'm saying we just got Zegras. Maybe we can do something else at center. You want that great? You want your Kachuk? Well, we're going to get that in Porter Martone. That's my pick. I think if this is the way the draft board went, give me Porter Martone and just let it ride. Figure the rest out. You have other picks. You got Zegras, and a player of his caliber falling to you. BPA, baby, Porter Martone.
Yeah, I mean, so if they do add a guy like Martone, you're adding size, you're adding strength. He's got the hands. Look, I think he can move a little bit for his size. And as we know with prospects, like Flyers are pretty synonymous, or they at least amongst Philadelphia Flyers fan circles, they have a reputation for drafting players who are not the best skaters. As we've seen with Bobby Brink, that can be improved on, right? They have a power skating coach. They have guys that can coach this stuff up. So the skating stuff, if there's any doubts about skating, that shouldn't scare you off about Porter Martone. Big dude, soft hands, can score, can get up and down the ice, in my opinion. Look, Flyers need big dudes that can score. Like we're talking net front presence. We're talking maybe can win pucks in dirty areas here. But yeah, I mean, I haven't seen – and look, he was the captain for the Brampton Steelhead. So this guy's got leadership. He was a captain for Canada recently. This could be a future captain for the Flyers. Great pick by Jack there. I'm going to go with Jake O'Brien. And let's see. We'll see what the chat says. But Jake O'Brien, for me, is a guy that if I was drafting top 5, top 6, I might be the GM to be the draft disruptor. I really like this kid's game. It seems like people either just like him a little bit or, they're really kind of not fans of him. I like Jake O'Brien. I think this is a guy the Flyers could use. If things don't work out with Zegras at center, you can plug in Jake O'Brien. 6'2". He's got a lot of room to grow into his body. Playmaking center. I think he can play both areas, both ends of the ice. So this is a kid that I would be delighted with to take at 6. And so let's see where our chat wants to go here. And I just want to say this. In real life, if Porter Martone is on that board, I'm going with Porter Martone. But for the sake of this argument, it's tough. Like these are the two guys that I actually, after guys like Frundell and Denoyer, Jack, these are the two I want. So in a way, I'm hoping that the decision is made for the Flyers. This way, it's kind of like, at least we didn't have a choice here. We had to take one or the other. You know what I mean?
Right. It's a good problem to have, especially now that we have Zegras. Before I was a little, I was hoping the board would fall our way where we wind up with Hagens or something. Right. But now that we have Zegras, I'm not too concerned about that unless they get cute. Ultimately, we'll see. But could do a lot worse here.
Absolutely. And let's talk about John Izzy's comment here. So John comments, should I be as worried as I am right now that with the Zegras trade, they're more likely to draft Brady Martin at 6? All I hear is that he's the perfect flyer and hits. Read he projects as a 3C. I don't know if he projects as a 3C. I'm not really sure about that, but somebody just comped him to Mike Richards on Twitter and said, you don't draft a Mike Richards at 6. And I'm like, what? Like, what? Like, do we have such short memory that we forget just how much of an absolute beast Mike Richards was? And this isn't me advocating for a Brady Martin at 6, because if the guy's going to be there at 10, try to trade up to 10 or trade back if this is really your guy. But Brady Martin, I don't know if I agree with, a Mike Richards.
Look, if I understand the comp, but that doesn't make him the player. If you can guarantee me he was Mike Richards, then we're trading up to 4 to get him. But you can't guarantee that. I think Mike Richards has more skill. I'm not to say that Martin is, doesn't have skill. And somebody actually asked an interesting question much earlier in the chat about what is skill exactly. And to me, it's like plenty of these guys can throw the body around and hit and whatnot. Skill to me is, the stick handling, the dangling, that kind of sixth sense where you just know where people are on the ice, and you can also get the puck to them. You can retrieve the puck, you can hang on to the puck, you can protect the puck, you can make crisp, clean passes. You're in the right place at the right time. But skill for me is be able to pass, stick handle, and shoot. When I think about skill, those 3 things come to mind. And just doing that at the next level, and also being able to do that, all 3 of those things together at the next level. and skating is involved in that a little bit as well. So I think recency bias has definitely taken its toll. It's a copycat league. So when you see your Bennett's and your Kachucks and even your Marchands, like you see that and then win cups and you're like, well, we need to get grittier and bigger and all that. And part of that is true. But a lot of those teams still have the skill. They have plenty of the skill guys and guys who are top of the league, talent wise and throw the body around. They're super rare. I don't see that player in this draft. Maybe Martone. Martone's maybe your best shot at getting a guy who's big, who's skilled, who's good, and can put a licking on somebody if need be. Yeah, Brady Martin's going to put a licking on somebody. He plays center, but 3C seems a little tough. I think that's more of his floor. Where 2C, I think, is probably his ceiling. I don't see 1C.
I think that's fair. Yeah, and for me, if somebody wants to win a Brady Martin argument, just say exactly what you just said. I don't think you got to bring down a legend like Mike Richards by saying, oh, you don't draft a Richards at 6. I think you just say exactly what you said, Jack. Like his ceiling is a 2C. And then it's like, okay, well, I don't want him then because there's guys that can play. Look, they can play in the 1C, but their floor is a 2C, So argument 1 right there, I think.
And I appreciate that. And I'm probably going to take some hate for what I'm about to say. But Richards was one of the guys here. He was a great captain. We ultimately didn't get it done. He moved on to LA. And yes, he was vital to that team. But he was not the guy. I can think of 4 names that made the reason why that team won cups. And it was Drew Doughty, Jonathan Quick, Kopitar, and Dustin Brown. Dustin Brown threw the body around like you wouldn't believe as well. And Richards was well in that, but
I wonder if you can compare the Richards edition to the Sam Bennett edition to Florida.
A lot of similarities
between those two teams.
No, that is perfect. When Sam Bennett was the guy was supposed to be, because I believe he's the 4th overall pick in Calgary. That's with, I believe he still played with Tkachuk and Gaudreau, and I think they got to the second round of the playoffs or something like that. It's not like they sucked. But Richards, look, we got the game 6 of the cup, and Richards had a lot to do with that, a lot to do with that. But, so did Pronger, and so did some other players. But, when he went to LA, it's not like he went to LA and the team just turned around. It was amazing. They had a fantastic, magnificent core in place where they were adding a Mike Richards and a Carter for that matter, to what they already had. That's what made them multiple Stanley Cup champions. But they already had those skill guys in place, and even guys who did the same thing that they did. I think Bennett and Richards comparison makes a lot of sense. Comparatively, where those teams were and what they became after they added those players, and ultimately what those players became. Because it wasn't Mike Richards scoring overtime goals for LA. It was freaking Justin Williams. I'm not saying he wasn't a part. He was a huge part of why they won, but he wasn't the only part, and he definitely wasn't the top
right.
part.
It sounds like what you're saying is this is a guy that you can add later on down the road kind of thing.
You'd hope a type, and he's definitely at the top tier of that kind of type, but I do think there's a cap to some of those players when it comes down to just flat out skill. And if you're drafting hoping to get that and you don't already have a 1C in place, how else are you getting that 1C? Because unless something crazy happens, I don't see Brady Martin as a 1C. And look, he'll be a fan favorite. We'll love him. We will really appreciate him. But when we're up there playing Florida in the playoffs or Tampa or whoever, and we're looking for somebody to outmaneuver the other team and dazzle, hitting is only going to get you so far, because Florida has Barkov and those guys. Obviously the other Edmonton has their guys as well. The grit guys, you add those guys later. And it's just, without the top caliber 1C, I think you're putting a cap and limiting what you can do as a team going forward, unless you have something else in your pocket to get a number 1C. But we just heard how those guys don't become available. So you got lucky with Zegras, and I haven't seen any other number 1Cs moved. So that's what it comes down to for me. Would I love the player? Yeah. If we already had a 1C in place all day, would I be happy if they got Higgins and they traded everything under the sun back up to get Martin? All for it. But if all we can do is make the pick at 6, I got to go a different direction. Simple as that.
Yeah. All right, let's tally up some of our votes here for our first pick of the first round, the 6th overall pick. As mentioned, we are between Porter Martone and Jake O'Brien. I think this is a vote for Porter Martone here from Micah. So 1. This is Tom Truxell chiming in with a vote for Jake O'Brien. Now I'm confused on London, so let's wait a second here. Looks like John agrees with you on Martone. Explicit loves Martone but goes O'Brien, so we're tied.
Fair.
Izzy confirms his vote of Martone. Okay, yeah. So London looks like goes Martone there. So is that 3-2 or 2-2?
Well, we can't do anything with 2-2, so you might as well take it. Unless you want to cast a vote, Jim.
No. How much of that skill did you see Florida use? I'm looking for votes here. Explicit, I think it sounds like a Martin fan. Martin physical attribute clouds everything else he does well. I think it's 3-2 Martone here. Do we want to get any late votes in for Porter Martone or Jake O'Brien? There you go. Johnny B. Good, Martone.
Wait, there's another O'Brien. And now McQueen's got 2 votes. He's catching up between Keith and Chris here. Oh, man, we need one more to break the tie. Can anybody break the tie? Or Chris, throw McQueen into the mix?
We used your little your tweet from earlier this week about Marco Rossi and Briere calling him a 4th-line center, Chris, just so you know. Make sure you go back and listen. We gave you the shout-out, too. So what are we at, 5-4?
It might be tied, but here wait, Mika already did it. Yeah, tie might go to the runner here. Martone's ranked higher, I guess. I think
we should.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right, there it is.
Rora with the Martone.
Okay,
and it's Zach with the Martone. All right, so now it's overwhelming.
Oh, God. O'Brien got a vote. So we're still winning with Martone. And we're going to close the voting so we can go on with the show. Wow.
What were they saying? Stop the count?
Gonna have to.
All right, so at number 6, the Flyers take the 6'3" right winger, Porter Martone. That'll be a fun line one day. Zegras, Martone, Michkov, I hope. All of a sudden, the Flyers have a couple big forwards added in with Tyson Forster, Owen Tippett. All right, so we'll recap how the draft went up until the Flyers' next pick at pick 22. All right, so after the Flyers picked at 6, Victor Eklund went 7. Jake O'Brien goes 8 to Seattle. Roger McQueen goes 9 to Buffalo. Kayshawn Aitchison goes 10 to Anaheim, so good thing he didn't go to Pittsburgh. Brady Martin and Lyndon Lakovic go to the Pittsburgh Penguins at 11 and 10.
It's not bad.
Yeah.
I hate that.
Cullen Potter goes to Detroit at 13. Cameron Reed falls to 14 in Columbus. Jackson Smith falls all the way to 15 to Vancouver. Benjamin Kindle and Braden Coots each go to Montreal, who every time I do this mock draft, they end up with 2 very, very good players, Shaq. Like that seems to be some sort of a sweet spot in the drafts, pick 16 and 17.
Yeah, I love both those players, especially Kindell.
Yep. And you see Cole Reshny go right after pick 18. Yeah, it does. Cole McKinney goes 19 to St. Louis. Justin Carbonneau, 20 to Columbus. And Radim Merca falls all the way to 21.
Man. Can you imagine if Merca lasted that long? That would be the Flyers pick, hands down.
Is he a guy that you consider maybe trading up for? Are you okay with who's left on the board?
They needed. There's somebody on the board. I don't think lasts past like 14, but I would still trade up. You know, I mean, is Jackson Smith still available? Did he not?
No, he went at 15.
Oh, he went. So if they're trading up, I'm trading up for. I don't think. Reshny, Jackson Smith. Carbonneau went pretty late. Merca, if he hangs around longer, because I don't see him. I see Seattle taking him. And who's still on the board is another player I would consider. So if you don't mind, Jim, I'll just go. Yeah. Carter Bear is probably going to go 12th or 13th or something. And he does almost everything right. There are some other good players still available, but Carter Bear should not be listed that low. He won't last that long. He's a center. He's easily my pick here.
Great pick first. And then to answer Keith's question here, is this FC or consensus? This is the FC hockey rankings. I've kind of fooled around with the consensus rankings, and they're a little bit odd for me. So he stuck with the FC hockey rankings. All right, so Jack's pick is in with Carter Bear. Let me see who's left on our draft board here. We have Malcolm Spence, the left winger from the Erie Otters. 6'1", 203, another big winger. Jack Nesbitt, who every time I do these seems to get passed over. 6'4", 182, center from the Windsor Spitfires. Kerbin Liementov is there, ranked 25th. We have a vote for Logan Hensler in the chat, who, according to these rankings, look, if I was a betting man, I would say that Logan Hensler may go a little higher come Friday.
I agree.
We'll see. But he seems to always be sort of a little bit lower on these lists.
There's a lot of nice names, though. I think Cole McKinney wouldn't go that high, and I think Hensler would.
Yeah, I think that's
Bear too for sure.
But so here's a question. There's a couple goalies, but it seems like, at least from consensus anyway, because admittedly, like, I'm not going to sit here and say that I watch goalies and even know how to judge them or know what I'm looking at. I just don't have fun watching goalies play their position. Purely based on rankings, Joshua Ravensbergen is the highest rated goalie in this draft, let's just say, right? The only goalie projected on most lists that I've seen, if on some that I may not have seen, is he's always going end of the first round or at the very beginning of the second round. If the Flyers want to draft potentially the best goalie in the draft, do they need to draft him at 22? Is my question here. Is it too much of a reach to draft who seems to be the best goalie in the draft at pick 22? Because if we look at the names, right, like, and I'm trying to sway people for my vote here, because I think if we look at this list, Carter Bear is hands down the pick, right? If we look at this list, Flyers pick again at 31. There are names that they're probably going to get at 31. Maybe Will Horkoff has a chance to drop to 31. Maybe Boumedienne is still going to be there. Blake Fiddler's got a chance. Bill Zana's got a chance. They could still get a guy at 31. You could definitely get your guy with pick 22, right? And so I'm just curious. I'm trying to state a case. It looks like I swayed Mikey here with the Ravensbergen pick. Is there a chance? Well, look, I got to make my pick, I guess, still, right?
Yes, sir.
Well, I guess I made the case. Now I got to take it.
You might as well go all in, right?
All right, so I'm going to go Ravensbergen with pick 22. And now it's up to the chat to decide. And I think they may have already. I don't know if I swayed anybody to make this close. Carter Bear or Joshua Ravensbergen at pick 22. And again, the Flyers weren't great in goal this year. Who knows what's happening with Alexei Kolosov? Ivan Fedotov is rumored to be waived and start the year and potentially play out the year in the AHL. Zavrajan's coming over eventually. Carson Bjarnason is in the AHL. Right now, the only guarantee the Flyers have on the roster is Sam Ersson. There's rumors that they're looking for goalies. Jake Allen's name's come up a lot. There's also been rumors that Joel Hofer could be available or whatever as an RFA. Look, Flyers are going to need more goalies in the pipeline. You got a chance to draft arguably the best one at pick 22 and, maybe get another guy later on. Because I think at this point we're picking depth guys, right? Like probably most likely bottom sixer type players, right? Third line guys at best.
Well, probably in the actual draft, there's a chance of that. But Carter Bear for me, no way. You're gonna love Carter Bear. But to your point, if you don't take Ravensbergen here, he's probably going to Nashville. So you'd have to do it here. So that's something to your case. However, and I got to give it to Izzy here. There are a plethora of Russian goalies, and Frolov is one of my favorite. I got to thank my draft analysis guys, Josh and Paul. They have laid out Frolov is one. There's like four more. There's also Jack Ivankovic, who was like the number one goalie coming into this draft season. There are other options out there. And with them having so many picks in the second round, for me, if it fell this way or even if it fell another way, there's probably somebody else I still would rather take, but I also expect them to trade up. So let's just say it goes this way. I'm going best player available. You can always use more centers. Bear could be a fan favorite as well. I read today that he's a lot like Carter Bear. He's a lot like Brady Martin. Like he doesn't hit as often, but like he's got the motor. He may even have more skill or I'm sorry, does more things right. So you can get a similar player there with Carter, which is why I believe he'll go higher. And they're going to probably take, and as many teams as there are out there, not all of them have the best pipeline to Russia. Like they have some scouts. Sometimes they just take those Russians off the board. They don't want to deal with it. Flyers obviously have a great pipeline to Russia, whether it be their scouts, who they talk to, the agents and whatnot. They're going to draft a Russian goalie. I hope it's Frolov. I hope it's later in like the early second round or whatnot. So for me, there'll be somebody at 22 that I'm more intrigued with than Ravensburgen, as much as I like him. And for me, in this scenario, I would go Bear for sure and hope to hit one of those Russian goalies later. You're on mute.
It sounds like the chat agrees, and it's overwhelming. And we're going to go Carter Bear at pick 23.
Don't take it to heart, Jim. Carter Bear probably doesn't make it past the 15th pick of the draft. So
this is a fun exercise.
It's not that bad. It's funky. It's funky, but it's not that bad. I've seen a lot worse.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So Ravensburgen ends up going 27. Let's see who goes after Carter Bear. So far, we have Porter Martone and Carter Bear. Not a bad draft so far. If you're a Flyers fan, I think. Malcolm Spence goes right after at 23. Luka Radivojevich goes 24 to LA. Logan Hensler, whose name came up a couple times in the chat, we mentioned before we made the pick, goes 25 to Chicago, who I think's now having an outstanding draft with James Hagan and Logan Hensler. Nashville, I didn't realize Nashville also has 3 first-round picks.
Yeah.
I believe they drafted Desnoyers in this mock. Let's see. Oh, they drafted Anton Frundell, Blake Fiedler, and Malcolm Spence. So pretty good draft so far.
They hit everything but goalie.
Yeah.
Washington took the goalie.
There you go. At 27, Wozniak goes 28. Limatov goes 29. Jack Nesbitt goes 30. And our last pick of the night, at least for this exercise here, Flyers are back on the clock at pick 31. According to FC Hockey's rankings, Jack Murtaugh is the top available player, followed by Bill Zonin, William Horkoff, Sasha Boumedienne, Wojtek Chihar, and Jack. This feels like a pick where you can kind of go wherever you want with this pick, right? Like the Flyers still have 4 picks around this range, even after trading one of their second round picks. So they have a chance to kind of scoop up a bunch of guys that they want. And I think this is the range where, look, if let's say Cameron Schmidt is your guy, go down and get him. If Boumedienne is your guy, go ahead and take him. You know what I mean? If Shane Van Saggy is your guy at 31 or Zharovsky, take your guy. I think that's where we are at this point. What are your thoughts?
So we have later picks. We pick again in 5 picks. And I have a couple of guys I really like here. Like I like Bill Zonin has been rising up until like around 21, 22. Horkoff, I'm seeing getting a lot of love. Milton Gastrin, Nestral. Oh my God, this is from what I get for drinking. Nestralsil, Cameron Schmidt, Riker Lee's a name I like. Alexander Zakovsky is a name I like. Vasagi's a name I like. There's a lot of names I like right here. However, we have drafted back-to-back centers. I'm sorry, no, we didn't, because we took a winger earlier. We've drafted a center, we've drafted a winger, and we've added Zegras. I'm taking Boumedienne. I'm taking the defenseman here. I don't know if he lasts that long in the actual draft. To get him at 31 seems like a gift. And if you're playing the draft game, you take the defenseman, you draft in 5 picks, and from there you can have your pick of all these guys. And there's so many I like. Whether it be Riker Lee or Cameron Schmidt or Milton Gastrin, Bill Zonin, one of those guys will be available in 5 picks. So I'm taking the defenseman, and I'll see who's left in 5 picks.
I think that's a perfectly fine pick. Detecting Blaine's World here. This is the first time we've seen you in the chat. Welcome. Hopefully we see you more often here. We're going to do another one of these tomorrow night. So make sure you tune in. Okay. So you went with Sasha Boumedienne. Boston University, NCAA. I believe he's a left shot defenseman, 6'1", 175, out of Sweden. That's going to be another tough one. And so a player that I'm really intrigued with, Jack, is William Horkoff. And why? It's because he's one of the younger guys in the draft. I think he, according to Russ Cohen, talked to a lot of teams. A lot of teams wanted to make sure they talked to William Horkoff at the combine. 6'5", got a lot of growing to do into that body. Should have NHL pedigree, as his father, Sean Horkoff, was a former NHL player. I'm intrigued by William Horkoff purely because of size. There are players, you mentioned Nestor Soler. I was a big favorite of Prospect on. Cameron Schmidt has been a fan favorite in the chat, 5'7" wing from the Vancouver Giants. And look, if you're not above this tall, you can play for the Philadelphia Flyers. So it might be somebody to consider. Riker Lee, Alexander Zhuravsky, Shane Van Saggy is a guy whose stock kind of shot up after the combine there. So if I was the GM, I would take the shot on It's tough because the defenseman there is the highest ranked defense left, right? And then there's just a bunch of centers. And look, in my opinion, a lot of the centers left here are not going to amount to much. But I'm going to go William Horkoff for the sake of – actually, you know what? I take that back. I'm going to renege that. I'm going to go Bill Zonin. This guy is shot up mock drafts. There you go. Him, I think, just commented there. Bill Zonin still available? Yes. This is the first time we've seen him in the chat. So welcome to the show. All right. So we got Bill Zonin versus Sasha Boumedienne. Lyndon, I didn't see your comment there between Horkoff and Murtaugh. It was a toss-up for me between Zonin and Horkoff. Because I really do. I'm intrigued by Horkoff being as young as he is and as big as he is. Okay. Let's see if we get any votes kind of scrambling in.
All right, him.
There we go.
I'm talking about.
Just announced Jack's going to do a shot per new subscriber tonight.
That's right. And this is straight, so it might as well be. Been doing a shot the whole show.
Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. We really appreciate you guys, old and new. You guys make this a lot of fun. We're over 600 viewers live.
That would be intriguing because going by where I think these guys are going to actually go in the draft, Zonin's gone.
Yeah.
Bodiem is probably gone, but Zonin, I think, is definitely gone. And, I mean, adding a left winger is always intriguing as much as we could use another defenseman. But, again, we drafted 5 picks. Ideally, take whoever's number 1 on your list here, and if you really want somebody else on where they're going to go, try to trade up. You got plenty. You got 2. You have 3 second-round picks. You can trade another one with – you can trade 2 to move up, essentially, is what I'm trying to say here. And then take a goalie with the last one, and boom, you don't draft the third round. That's a hell of a haul. You know, so I mean, you could really maneuver this to work out. And somebody mentioned it early in the draft. I expect them to move up. Yes, they better. I expect them. I'm calling it now. They're going to take whoever they take at 6. Hopefully, it's Higgins. Not to get off topic here. And they're going to use 22 and whatever else they got to move up. And they're probably going to take like Jackson Smith or something. That would be amazing. But if it does fall this way, where they have all their picks, which technically they don't because they acquired Zegras. And we get a little too crazy about these guys because it is a little bit of a lesser draft. We just have spent so much time zoning in on these guys. Maybe we're overplaying them as they are, but at the end of the day, who really knows? And it's not like we're drafting deep into the second. Like, this is still the first round. And then we pick again 5 picks later. Like, Christ, what a position to be in.
Yeah, and I'm listening. I'm also trying to look through votes here in the chat.
Oh, my bad.
No, please. That's what we do here. We're a podcast. We talk. I'm just trying to do. My girlfriend will tell you I can't do 2 things at once. I can't drive and talk. I'm trying to listen and read. All right. I think we have 2 votes for Zonin. I think we have 2 votes for Boumedienne. Lyndon wants to move up for Kashawn Aitchison, and
yeah, he's another one I like.
Look,
he's a flyer. He could be a flyer too. I hate to see him. I'm glad the Rangers gave away their pick because I totally saw the Rangers taking him. Now I can see Pittsburgh taking him, but he made more sense to me for the Rangers. They're trading. They're going to trade up for a defenseman, or at least they're going to try. I'm telling you, whether it's Jackson Smith with Aitchison, like that is definitely something I would do. They should. They're probably Briere knows what he's doing. What are we worried about? He showed that time and time again.
So I agree. I mean, I hope that's the plan.
Wow.
I'm wondering if Aitchison is one of those guys that sneaks into the top 10. Like, I watched this guy play. I'm like, why is this guy not going top 10? Why isn't this one of those guys that kind of busts up draft boards, right? Like, this kid is fun. Like, this is a player that you win with, I think, in the regular season, but come playoff time, like, he's going to elevate his game. Like, he's built his DNA is playoffs. Like, he's got playoffs in his blood. Like, that's the type of guy he is. And when I see a player like that, I'm like, why is this guy being mocked out of the top 10? Like, this looks like a top 10 player to me, like a player that GMs would salivate over taking. So I have two guys that I really, really want. And if the Flyers don't get them, I'm just being honest. I don't really care how they go in the rest of the draft, but I want Cole Reshny.
Yeah.
And I want Kashawn Aitchison. Those are my two guys. The rest, it's like, all right, well, let's see what they are. But those two guys, like, when I watch them play, I'm like, yes, I can see this happening in the NHL. I could see this play transferring to the next level. You know what I mean?
No, I mean, I love both of those names, especially Reshny. First off, Miko, this is like one of the greatest quotes. If I ever get accused of not being able to multitask, that's what I'm going to say. Explicit. Yeah, I think he might be picked at 12, to be honest with you. I mentioned earlier about somebody trying to trade for Rossi. It was the Canucks, not Buffalo. And that's it. I believe it was pick 15 and Minnesota turned it down. So I don't know that they're looking to trade back. And they might be looking to trade for a player, which is why he suggested Brink and York and whatnot. I would be interested. I don't know if they trade York, but I'm interested. I would like to trade picks to move up, but it doesn't sound like the Canucks would be interested in that. They want a player. I would probably do that, though. I mean, if the right guy is still available, like Aitchison or somebody like that, I really hope they're all in for that. That would be great. That's a team to circle and see what happens there.
Totally. And as if Aitchison is on the board at 15, we kind of talked about this earlier. Right now, the 15th overall pick is it's a lottery ball. You don't know who's going to be there. 15 comes around and somehow Aitchison is still on the board. All of a sudden, the value of that pick skyrockets. So I don't know. I don't know if you want to give up a Cam York at any point for that pick.
I mean, with Zegras in the fold now, I'm a little hesitant. I want to make him as comfortable as possible. I want to see because York, you're selling a little bit lower value than you would be. And you just brought in Zegras and they're buddies with Drysdale and whatnot. I kind of want to see what happens with that. I kind of want to let that kind of grow. There's a good question here by Rura. I'm going with 2. I think they do trade up. They have the assets, and I think they need to be aggressive. And Briere has balls, and I'm going with 2. I think they make 2 picks. They trade up, whether it's from 22 or from 20. Well, I guess it depends on what they give up. I think it's going to cost a little bit to trade up. And 31 is almost a glorified second. So I think that'll be involved. So I'm just going with, I think they do make a move. They do trade up into the teens and make, they have 2 first-round picks. Or they make 2 first-round picks tomorrow. Friday, rather. Excuse me. So what about you, Jim? You think they make all their picks? You think they make some moves? What do you think?
Yeah, I think there'll be some moves. I'm going to assume, look, first round, I don't know. We hear every year that this is the year that teams could trade top 10 picks, right? Or top 5 picks. Until it happens, I don't really believe it.
Yeah,
maybe there'll be some shuffling between top 5 teams. If a team like maybe wants Brady Martin at 7 or something like that, and they want to drop 2 or 3 picks, maybe, and they get value for moving down, maybe. But until it happens, it's just, it's just conjecture. It's just noise. But I could see them moving more seconds for sure.
Yeah, they can move into the teens. Into the top 10, nah. But into the mid to late teens, I think so. Especially if somebody's hanging around that they like, by all means. And they should. Sure. They're going to try. They are. That's how Briere is. And that's what I love about him. And he's proven it. He's willing to wheel and deal, and he's got balls, and he's got a price, and either they agree or they don't. So we'll see what happens.
Yes. All right. So let's we're about 5-6 minutes over an hour here. We want to keep this to an hour as close as possible. I think the chat wants Zonin, Jack. So we're going to go with Zonin here with the 3rd and final pick of the first round.
Can't complain.
So, okay, let's see our results here. Our picks. All right. So, look.
Look at that first. Look at that first line. You got a whole first line right there.
Maybe you like it? I was going to say.
Maybe second line because of Mishkov and Zegras. But yeah, look at that. That could be your second line right there. Martone, Bear, Zanin. Boom. Let's go. I like that. I'll be all for that. In second round, you take a couple of centers and a defenseman and a goalie. Let's go.
Yeah, for sure.
Great job.
So, yeah, that was fun, right? I mean, Chad always does a great job with this. I like this tool. Yeah, I don't know about the rankings though. The rankings are a little sketch, but it's still fun.
I always say that about you, Jim. They're like, "What do you think about doing a podcast with Jimmy?" I'm like, "I like that tool. I do."
Asshole. All right, let me stop the screen share here. All right, so great job, guys. I mean, the chat kind of decided this. Porter Martone, Carter Bear, Bill Zanin. I think fans would come away happy with.
And look, Jim, look at that. 6'3", 6 foot, 6'2". Martone's over 200 pounds. The other two are 179, basically 180 at 18 years old. You're getting bigger. You're getting stronger. That's what they want to do. So I'll give the chat that. Maybe to think, hey, 2 birds, 1 stone. You take the best player available and you get bigger, which the team wants to do. So can't complain.
Yeah. Would love that chat. I would love that that draft as well. Porter Martone, I think, has kind of grown into my guy.
Now, don't you feel you have the room to accept him now that Zegras is in the fold?
Yeah, and it made it a lot easier to be like, well, because it would make a lot of sense if teams went center, prioritized center. For me, I think, and I know Frundell is being mocked to San Jose a lot lately, but it's all, to me, unless it happens, it's all smoke and mirrors, right? Because we just mentioned teams are maybe going to try to jockey for position.
Yeah.
I think the chalk is still Schaefer.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think the Islanders should overthink it, even though I've seen Misa kind of rumored to go first overall. But I think the top 3 for sure is going to be Misa, Schaefer, Frundell, and, some order.
Frundell has really jumped up there, man. My God.
Yeah. And so usually when that happens, it's known that a team wants Frundell, right? So if Frundell's being mocked to San Jose may have gotten word that, oh, Chicago really likes Frundell. Let's see if we can get them to trade up for him, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Can we call their bluff? Yeah. And so, we'll see how things shake out. But in my mind, those guys are going top 3. Then we're left with Denoyer, Hagens, and this is no particular order, just who's coming to mind. Denoyer, Hagens, O'Brien. We'll kind of round out the centers there. If you want to add in Brady Martin, you can. And then Porter Martone as the right wing. So I don't know how 4, 5, 6 is going to shake out. Well, nobody knows. But to me, the draft starts at 4. Like, what does Utah do? Like, they're a wild card right now.
Yeah, and Chicago to an extent. I've heard them linked to, at first it was going to go Schaefer, Misa, and then I want to say Hagens for a while, but then it was Denoyer. Then it was Frundell. Yeah, it's like he just keeps changing with. I'm sorry, it was Martone, then Hagens, then Denoyer, then Frundell. Like it's constantly changing with them. And the prospect Don was a Chicago fan, correct? And he was all for Frundell. Mm-hmm. And it's like people had issues with Frundell at 6. Not everybody. I was all for it. But other people, he's a true winger, which makes more sense for Chicago if he was to move to wing because they have Nazar and obviously Bedard. But it is interesting that he's like kind of locked into the top 3, top 4. Kind of changes the draft board. Denoyers can hang around. It depends on what Nashville does. Like, we really have no idea once 3 hits. And there could be trades. I don't think so. But until, until it happens, what do you know? If teams jumped up that typically don't draft this low, that could make some trades happen. And Utah is that team. Utah is that team. They pick a guy like Brady Martin, and more guys that we are interested in are available. Then it's like, wow, we have a plethora of riches here. Who do we pick? It's going to be interesting. It's going to push other guys down the trot. And then I hope the Flyers can take advantage. As far as making trades and getting into position and waiting teams out, Briere's all about that. Will they take the right guy? That's a Brent Flair issue. And we're going to talk a lot about Brent Flair after this draft and who he has taken and what this team has and what we're looking at and if they ultimately made the right decisions. And it's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. And my God, I can't wait for it to be here. I'm going to wake up tomorrow and say, I got one more day. One more day. And then we're there, baby.
Yeah, that's for sure. Okay, so we're going to wrap. Lyndon said this draft gets wild after 2.
Could. I saw somebody saying Misa could fall to 6, which is so hysterical. But, like, my point is, like, I heard Frondell could jump up in there. We had the Higgins rumors earlier about going to the Islanders. I don't believe it, but the fact that it's even being mentioned, that didn't happen in years past. Nobody was saying somebody could go above Celebrini or Matthews or McDavid. That never happened. You know, this draft, the rumors were said. I don't believe it, but the fact that they were said, it's like, this draft's going to be wild.
Yeah. And if you remember last year, the talk was, and I feel like they say it often, this draft was not going to be as strong as last year's. And there's a couple cliffs, I think, in this first round. I think there's the top 6 to 8 picks and then a massive drop off in talent. Whereas I think maybe right now, this is just my opinion, no expert. Aside from Schaefer, and I think you could pencil Martone in as a top line guy. Yeah, you're picking the mock draft. I think the centers that we're talking about, we'll see with Misa. Frondell is being, I can't remember where I saw it. Somebody comped Frondell to Barkov, and until that happens, it's just somebody's comp. But I think a lot of the guys we're talking about will get a shot on the top line, but are probably at best second line guys. And which is why I think we're seeing all of this, let's get the center that fits what we want most, whereas Denoyer's the two-way guy. Frondell's the maybe the bigger power forward type guy with the shot. Hagen's playmaking center. He's got a little bit more room to grow. Misa, is he a left wing? Is he a center? There's questions about all these guys. Whereas you're right. Celebrini, chalk. You take the chalk first overall. So it's a weird kind of draft this year. And if you're looking for depth, I think third line guys, maybe that can step up into the second line. Things like you mentioned, Carter Bear. This is maybe more that draft where, the Flyers have a bunch of picks stockpiled. You mentioned you want to see them trade up and maybe get a potential guy that can help out in the middle 6. So there's just a couple cliffs. And I think that's maybe why we're seeing such, I don't know if it's smokescreen or if teams are just jockeying to get their guy. And that's probably what it is, right?
And that's why these picks in the top 10 don't get moved too often. The teams ultimately usually want their guy. But you said, like, if you're the Flyers and it's like there's a lot of second, third line guys, you're going to want to take the shot on the potential top center. And that's why I think Higgins should be the pick if he's there. I'm not saying trade up for him. I'm not there yet. But, like, that should be the guy. And we'll see what happens and the way the rumor draft is falling. But at the same time, there's so much BS right before the draft, so much that, like, it wouldn't surprise me if Higgins went third, because everything was just BS, smokescreen. We love him. He was the number 1 guy coming into this draft. Didn't have he had a good season. He just didn't have the season that a number 1 guy has. We still see him developing into that guy. It wouldn't surprise me 10 years down the road, he's the best forward in this draft. That is not crazy. That's who I want our team to take. The guy who has a chance of being the best forward in this draft, particularly at a very big position of need at center. So ultimately, time will tell. We'll see how it goes. But don't believe everything you see. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And that'll make this draft that much more exciting. It's not like BS where it goes almost chalk. It's going to get fun. You're going to see some stuff that kind of like this draft here where you had I think you did that draft the first day. And it had Eklund go 3rd overall. You're like, whoa, what? I don't know that happens, but something like that will happen. and just be prepared for it. And I hope that Briere's prepared for it, because that's when you start to take advantage of certain players slipping, and they got the assets to do whatever they got to do to get their guy.
That's for sure. All right, so we went just a little bit over tonight. I think we're an hour and 20 minutes in. So we're going to wrap here. I think we got some guys saying good night already in the comments. So good night. I want to thank you all for tuning in. If you enjoyed the episode, please consider subscribing. Help us on our quest for 2,000 subscribers. We want 2,000 by the end of August. I think last time I checked, we were at like 1,250. I think we can do 2,000 by August. Like and leave a comment for us on YouTube, Apple Podcast, or Spotify, and set alerts so you're the first to know when we drop a new show. For all of our latest episodes, articles, and updates, you can head over to hwhockey.net. For Jack, I'm Jim. Jack will be back tomorrow night with the draft guys, and then we'll be back Friday night with our draft episode. So hopefully we see most, if not all of yous there. Until then, bye-bye.
9 o'clock.
Go ahead.
9 o'clock. It's all right. Tomorrow, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, HW's final mock draft. We're going to use the same system Jimmy did. We're going to do it for all the teams, though, and we're not going to put as much analysis on it. We're just going to run through it all the way to pick 50, because Flyers have up until pick 48, and we're going to have some fun with it, and then that'll be it. We'll log off and then wait for the draft, and then join us for the live stream, and let's see what happens. It's got to be better than last year, right?
All right, there you go. Keep it high, keep it wide. We'll see you guys Friday and tomorrow night. Bye-bye.